business. Net may be broken at any time for priority emergency traffic. If you have an emergency, please call 911 and then talk to us later. I just realized I didn't start the web server here, but here we are. I'm on. Anyway, you can see us tonight, as you can every night when we're on the net, is on YouTube. You just look me up on the call sign K4PEW, and I'll be there on YouTube. K4PEW in the YouTube search block. You can also see us on our website, 146415.net. 146415.net gets you into our website. And then, of course, you can also see us on our groups, our group, groups.io, groups.io, and look up MJSS if you want to get on our email list. Or you can send me an email at k4pew@arrl.net. We meet every Wednesday and Saturday night at 8 p.m. unless we have a crazy emergency, but we have one of those, but we're still here. We conduct the net on 146.415 if you happen to be off frequency, which I doubt you are. Purpose of the net is to have fun, to get together and train on how to operate our radios, how to improve our antenna systems, and how to communicate better throughout the area in which we live. And hopefully, in the event, not hopefully, in the event we have an emergency, if we ever have a communications emergency, each of us will be able to serve our families and our neighborhoods and our government if we had to in an emergency. We invite everyone to use the net to announce amateur radio events, etc. The big man, I can't talk straight tonight. The big announcement tonight are, let's see, today's Saturday, so Saturday night we have the buy, sell, swap, and swindle net following the 2-meter net. Then we have the, we'll follow that with the 2-meter net on 144.240. The net kind of caught me by surprise tonight. Can't tell, can you? And I don't think I have any other announcements other than we had a nice little coffee/breakfast on the air with, I don't even know how many people there were, but we had a bunch there between the hours of about 7:30 and 10 o'clock. Had some fun on the air on Saturday morning. Hope you can meet us. We'll probably do that every Saturday morning if we can swing it. Just a nice time to meet. Everybody is, well, not everybody's off, but at least we have some people that are off that can do that. We're going to do tonight, of course, like we've done the last 2 nets, and then we'll be doing what I've deemed the lightning round, where we just take check-ins on the first go around, and people can check in later as required. In other words, just taking the call, the name, and the location first, and we'll just run through that. Yesterday when we did, or the other day when we did that, it had 32 people on the net too. You don't have to hang around if you don't want to, but we just have an opportunity after that to chat and talk about anything you want to talk about, because it's kind of we're in a weird place sitting around all day. At least I am. I know those of you that can't work or don't have to work or are retired are in a position where we've got to fill our days. Some of that can be on the radio. But tonight's, by the way, is net number 574, and we're starting from the north tonight. Is there any other announcements or corrections I need to know about? All righty, then we'll start taking check-ins. This is K4PEW at the Mount Juliet Simplex Radio Net, and the taking check-ins starting from the north. Please come down. Remember, name or call, name and location, please. WE4E. I got you in there, Danny. I know where you are. Who's up next? That was Danny and Henderson. Bill, Whiskey Echo 4 Echo. Who's up next?
WB0NOO, Mark in Northwest Wilson.
WB0NOO, Mark in North Wilson, up by the radar station there, the weather station. Who's up next?
KN4KX8, Robert in Goodlettsville.
Hey, Robert, Kilo November 4, Kilo X-Ray Alpha, and he is in Goodlettsville. Good to have you in there. Who else is up north?
KC8NNO.
Hey, Jeff, good to have you in there again. That's that's Jeff Casey, Kilo Charlie 8, and November Oscar, and he's in Northwest Wilson as well. Who else north?
Kilo Bravo 9, Romeo Kilo Kilo.
All righty, we've got We've got Frank, and also in northwest Wilson County. And who else is up next? Anybody else north? And we'll move over to the west. Please come now.
November, India, 4 Delta.
Hello, Carl. Carl is over there in Brentwood. See, I remembered Carl. That's Carl in November. India, 4 Delta in Brentwood. Who else is west?
KN4 TJF, Ashland City.
Hey, very good. I hear you in there, Rick. Rick's in Ashland City. That's Kilo November 4 Tango, Juliet Foxtrot. Let's see, who else is there? It's a good signal tonight, by the way, Rick. Who else west?
KM4 YRF.
KM4, Kilo Mike 4 Yankee Romeo Foxtrot. That's Michael there in Belshire. Up next is who?
WY4G.
Hello, Jeff. Whiskey Yankee 4 Golf in Madison. Oh, amazing, I can still remember these things. Who's up next west? Any other west, please come in. All right, on to the south.
KK4 UTS Carl.
Hey, KK4 Uniform Tango Foxtrot Carl, and he's in Gladeville, as I recall. Good to hear you in there, Carl. Who else is west? Nothing but a click. Who was that? Is there anybody else west? Then turn to the south.
Kilo Echo 4 Sierra Yankee Victor.
Very good, Larry. Sound good. Kilo Echo 4 Sierra Yankee Victor. Larry in Rockvale. Who's up next on south?
Kilo Mike 4 November Yankee Bill Murfreesboro.
Very good, Bill. You sound good. It's Kilo Mike 4 November Yankee, and he's in Murfreesboro. Who's up next?
KG4 ILV Jack and Donaldson.
All right, Jack. Good to have you in there as well. Kilo Golf 4 India Lima Victor, and that's Donaldson, of course. Who else is next? South.
Kilo 4 Oscar Fox Oscar Donnie Armitage, Tennessee.
All right, Donnie. You just wish you were in Mount Juliet. He's in Hermitage technically, but I think of him as being he's south of me. I don't think of Hermitage. But who else is up next? That was, by the way, Kilo 4 Oscar Foxtrot Oscar Donnie and Hermitage. Who else south? Please come in. Anybody else south? Over to the east.
WA4 ZH James and Mount Juliet. Yeah.
Hey, very good, James. I did get you in there. Sound good. Didn't take too long this time doing it this way, does it, James? Who else is good to have you in there? Who else was east?
KB4 RSM Mount Juliet Glenn.
Very good, Glenn. Good to have you in there as well. It's Kilo Bravo 4 Romeo Sierra Mike. And there was somebody else in there too. Anybody else east?
Mike Uniform Foxtrot Jimmy on the east side of Mount Juliet.
Okay, I think I messed that up. It's Whiskey 4 MUF, right?
Roger, money up front.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that one, but that's good. It is Whiskey 4. Yeah, that's right, because you changed it. But I got you in there, Jimmy. Jimmy here in Mount Juliet. That's Whiskey 4 Mike Uniform Foxtrot. Who else next?
KE4 TWI.
KE4 TWI. Your signal sounds pretty good tonight there, west, down there out of Watertown. Sounds pretty good. Who else is west? Or, yeah, east, excuse me. If anybody else east?
Oh, I thought I heard Woodbury.
All right, do we hear a Woodbury station in it?
I tried checking in once, KE4 TYJ.
Yeah, I don't know. Normally I'd hear you. I don't ignore you there, Jim. KE4 TYJ. You must have been checking in from south, were you?
I was trying to, but apparently I missed it.
Okay, sorry about that. That was Jim down in Woodbury. That's Kilo Echo 4 Tango Yankee Juliet. Anybody else south or east?
KE4 DZ.
Well, you're kind of south and east. How you doing there, Earl? Good to have you in there as always. Anybody else south or east?
Thanks all.
I got you in there, Tom. So who else was calling my name there? Somebody else was calling me? South or east?
What was Tom's call?
Kilo Bravo 4 Sierra Foxtrot November, I believe. All righty, that's who you was calling me. Who? Anybody else south or east? Please come down. All righty, then we've got a grand total of 22 at the moment. And is there any other late check-ins after this first go around?
KI4 WBZ.
Hey, how are you doing, Chris? I haven't heard from you in a while. Hope you're doing well. That was Kilo India 4 Whiskey Bravo Zulu. And you're still in Donaldson?
Hermitage, but close enough.
Okay, I did have it wrong. You're right. I don't know. To me, Hermitage and Donaldson, well, they are different locations. I tend to meld them all together on the east side of Nashville.
Yeah, Hermitage is a little closer. Better for Simplexton.
Oh, yeah. No, you're doing a good job there, Chris. I'm glad you're in there. And anyway, that was Kilo India 4 Whiskey Bravo Zulu, and that's Chris. Been away from us for a while. Must be working those nights. Anybody else late check-ins? Please come in.
KK4 and JEC.
KK4. Give me that call last 3 again, please, Lori.
Kilo Juliet 4 Juliet Echo Golf. KJ4 JEC.
Yeah, very good. I got it this time. Kilo Juliet for Juliet Echo Golf, and that's Lori, and also in what do you call it? Watertown, near Watertown. Good to have you in there, Lori. Don't hear from you all the time either, but that's remember, no rules. Anybody else south or east or late check-ins?
Whiskey 4 Delta Tango Charlie. David here in Gallatin.
Hey, very good, David. Good to have you in there as well. That's Whiskey 4 Delta Tango Charlie in Gallatin. Who else? Late check-ins. We'll just do it that way. I should hear some clicking going on. Does anybody want to check in? KM4 Hotel Quebec. That's Kilo Mike 4 Hotel Quebec Echo. And that's Stan, and he's in just a little bit north of downtown Lebanon. Anybody else late check-in? Please come in. Got nothing. And all right, and just one last chance before we move on. I just want to remind everybody we are going to have the buy, sell, swap, and swindle net following this regular net, and then we'll be moving over to the 2-meter sideband at 144.240 immediately following that. Don't have to attend or talk on either of them or any of them, but we're glad you're here. It's been a nice day today, and I spent it doing practically nothing. I hope some of you guys have been more productive than me. Is anybody, let's see, I don't know what a good topic would be for tonight, but is anybody getting bored? Anybody doing a lot more HF?
No, there's a contest on.
Oh, that's right. I did hear that earlier today. You're right. I was doing something else today. Let's see. Do I have any other thing I can mention here that's of any consequence? With that contest, are all the bands open?
Well, the walk bands are, but nothing else.
Well, I know the work bands would be open for stuff, but I mean, is it? I guess what I'm asking is are all the other bands packed with activity?
Well, 40 was, 20 was. Don't know. I didn't check 15 and then 18, of course, was a war band. 40 is really crowded.
You say 40 was too crowded?
Yeah. 75 was a hot mess last night.
I'll bet it was. It's funny how the bands all seem to get busy for contests and fielding.
But the bands are down, Paul.
No, I know, that's what I'm saying. It just seems so funny. They coordinate very well to be open when these activities come up, so to speak. I mean, I'm not sure they're open long, or in any case, are any of them open long?
Yeah, I mean, it was good DX last night. A lot of Europe in there on 75. You just had to mine them out between the other idiots.
You mean we're not all idiots for being on the air like this?
there's some particularly bad manners last night, and I'm not talking about the usual 75 miscreants that it was just stations operating 1.5 kc away from each other, 20, 25 over, trying to dig stuff out in between that was a little tough.
Showing your age using that KC indication.
Sorry.
It's all right. I learned it that way too. I had to figure out what hertz was later. No, it always gets. I remember I was on not a contest. I think it was field day, and I was up in the Buffalo. I was up in Buffalo operating from a ship up there, that the USS Little Rock, and I heard this station. He wasn't talking to me. He was talking to somebody else, and he, I heard this loud, big station, a lot of power coming in, and he was saying, "Please move down," whatever he said, 10 or 15. Move these down 10. You're interfering. And I realized after the third time it was said, it was a recording. And the guy had a recording where he would automatically just broadcast that, like it was a public service announcement, telling everybody to get away from his frequency.
Well, I haven't heard it yet, but I know during the CQ Worldwide a couple of weeks ago, there was a couple of stations that were using voice synthesis, and I guess they would type in the call sign, and everything would give the exchange and whatever. It was horrible.
Yeah, that could make it pretty impersonal, couldn't it?
I mean, you may as well do FT8. And the thing about it is some of the guys, at least one of the stations, had the speed cranked up so far you couldn't make out what the thing was saying. So there was a lot of repeats, and actually I bet his QSO rate was slower because of retransmission than it would have been if he'd just slowed down. Oh
yeah, I got you. Yeah, I can see why people would do that, but again, it takes the human out of the equation in voice, in phone QSOs. And who wants to talk to a recording?
Yeah, no kidding. I've been choosy. I've been picking and choosing. I mean, if you want to go test out a receiver or test out an antenna or something like that, it's a great time to do it. And one thing that I did take away from my my experience, especially on 75 last night, is you sure learn how to use the tools in your receiver. Because when you've got all these monster stations, 15, 20, 30 over, and you're trying to dig out an S5 from Switzerland in between them, it makes it a little tough. And you come to appreciate your roofing filters and come to appreciate your notch filters and some of the other tools that you've got. And you learn how to use them pretty quick.
Yeah, you learn how to concentrate too.
Yep. All right, somebody else have a go. WE for you.
Very good. That was Danny, Whiskey Echo 4 Echo in Hendersonville. Anybody else working the stations today?
Kilo Bravo 9, Romeo Kilo.
Hey, what's up there, Frank?
10 meters is back down, but it was up for a while.
Oh, really? What time of day was it up?
Probably between 3 and 5 p.m. But it was mostly Brazil, Chile, Uruguay, and 15 was big time. So just the other guys already mentioned. Now 40's a mess.
Yeah, 10 is always a fun band when it's open, but I doubt it's open now, is it?
Not that I can tell. I mean, the Europeans were using it for local stuff, like kind of like what we do on our local net. They were talking to each other and getting their call signs and everything, but nothing. You could tell they were all being spotted by each other, and then all of a sudden it started spreading to other parts, and that's when I do. I'm like, okay, it's gonna open. But it always kind of does that to the south. At least for my intent, it always goes to South America.
Right. How much are you using? You're using just 100 watts, are you?
Oh yeah, that's all I have. Yeah.
Oh, that's all you really need. I mean, sometimes it's nice to have power, but people get into the idea early that they need an amplifier, and they really don't.
No, what you need to do is exactly what Danny just said. Boy, I sure appreciate the 7300 now. Compared to my old radio, to try to dig out in between, it's annoying. You're getting blasted trying to talk to somebody, and they're like, and you can totally tell they can hear each other. They just, and the guys are trying to slide around. Like nobody was on an actual regular frequency. Not that you have to be, of course, but you had to keep sliding around to get away from each other.
Yeah, that's what like Danny said. You do learn to use your radio.
Yeah, I guarantee I would have never heard it with my older radio. No way.
Huh. Yeah, that's cool. Very good. That was Frank over there in wherever the heck you are. Yeah, Northwest Wilson. That's where he is. Who else? Anybody else working anybody else working the contest?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time on 15 Paul, and 40.
On 50. Is anybody you doing any? Do you try to do anything QRP, or is that just too much trouble in a contest like this?
To me? No, I run a 4 kilowatt and a half in the contest and use the X beam.
That hex beam is good through 80 or 40?
So one I've got is 26.6. Well, it's got a 40 meter element on it, but I use the wire for that. Mainly just 40 and 80 during contest weekends, or just kind of leave those along. Get down there where where you've actually got a better chance of competing, because most of the big gun stations with the mock arms and the stack beams and stuff are going to pretty much own 40 and 80. So I can compete pretty well on 20 and 15, 10, 6.
Is that hex beam at all directional?
Oh yeah, it's on a rotator. It's up about 40 feet, and then give or take 5 feet more.
Yeah. Does it? I don't have any experience with those. Are those considered a compromise on any of those bands?
And it's 2 elements on every band, except I do have that broadband element. I had to put that on mine, as well as the 40 meter element. And the broadband element's really just kind of like a folded dipole. It's got a resistor on it and 2 legs. So you're basically, it's going to tune no matter what, because you got this huge, 50 ohm resistor terminating the end of it. And then on the other end, you got your balun coming down.
Yeah, those. But you had a lot of good experience with that.
Yeah, I did about 67 stations so far on 15 this weekend.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Anybody else have an X beam? I don't know if anybody else here has one, unless I just didn't hear about it. No more hex beams. Is anybody trying to remove a hex from their beam? Nope. Hex beam. It sounds like you're the only one, at least on the frequency tonight there, Carl.
Yeah, a few other folks around have them. I know W4UR has one down the block from me, and W5DMT got one. And, I wouldn't call them exactly compromised, but I'm going to swap it out in the spring just because you can't put anything on top of it. I do want to put that 2 meter beam on top of the same tower with my HF stuff. So I went ahead and got I call it the incubation pod for the Navasa 5 sitting here, big box with, or 2 big boxes with the 22 6 meter beam, and it's got 2 elements across the board from 20 down to 6.
Oh wow, sounds like you're well equipped. How many? Did you just have the one tower?
Right now, yeah, I've got one.
Oh, right now, yeah, you guys with more than one tower. How big is that tower now?
Let's see, antennas start up about 40 feet. The hex beam's about, 6 feet tall, so the upper element's like 20, up pretty close to 47 feet. And it goes down to 6 from there. So I guess 6 is probably up about maybe 40 feet.
Oh wow. I don't know if you remember where you were here when Glenn was talking about over here in Mount Juliet. Glenn, are you still there? What do you have up on your tower now, if anything?
Hey, Paul. Yeah, no, the tower just got completely successfully raised to vertical, and there's nothing on it yet. That's my next step.
Okay. I didn't know if you'd worked that way into it yet, but because that's 70 foot at the top of the tower. Are you going to put a mast on top of that?
Yes, it's I've got it was supposed to be a 12-foot mast. It's actually 11 and a half feet, and of course on the top The X700 is going on top. Right under it's going to be my 9-element 2-meter beam, and under it my 3-element 6-meter beam. And then I'm thinking about at the very bottom of that mast, just right at the at the tower, putting a rotatable dipole for 10 through 40.
Rotatable for 10 through 40. That's a pretty big dipole.
I think it. I want to say that it might have. Now I don't have it off the top of my head. I wanted to say it was like 21 feet long.
Yeah, that's not terrible. It's a big wind catcher.
Yeah, it is. It's just something I'm interested in trying versus my just wire dipole I'm using now. I've been told if I was able to turn it, I could possibly null out some of the noise floor that I get here with the wire. That, of course, my current dipole is just in my attic that runs the length of my house, so it's nothing special by any means. I tune it to a tuner, but I don't know. I thought I've got a tower. It might be interesting to try that, so I'm looking into it.
Yeah, I don't think you could do that. Now, I was going to say that with a dipole, you wouldn't be able to do it, but I noticed. I wonder if anybody knows someone who has those electrically reversible polarity. I guess they're always loops, I believe. Like a square loop. Is that what I think that's what it is? It's the electrically reversible ones?
Yeah, I think I've seen that advertised.
Yeah. I just wonder if anybody had one, because I've seen them and I thought that'd be pretty cool. You.
Yeah, this is Whiskey for Mike Uniform Foxtrot. I've got a rotatable dipole. It's an MFJ dipole. The only caution is on those things, when you get down into 40 meters, the bandwidth gets really narrow.
Narrow bandwidth on 40. I'm sure you copied that, Glenn.
Oh yeah, I had strong signal on him. Yeah, okay. That kind of almost. I mean, that makes some sense. Good to hear that. Something just. One of the ideas running through my head maybe to help out some of my HF.
Oh yeah, no, I understand. So you need a second tower. That's what you need.
Yeah, I think I've gone well overboard just with the first one.
Yeah, 70 feet's I don't know if I don't know. Wes, are you still there? Yours isn't any higher than 70, is it? I think with a mast it might be. He must have dropped off frequency there, but his is at least 60 foot, I believe. So, but he's kind of in a bad elevation, so he's just barely getting over the ridge where he lives, coming at least in this direction on on FM.
Comment.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Glenn, is that a trapped dipole?
There's been two I've actually been looking at, but one of them actually was the MFJ one that was mentioned. And so I'm getting them confused, but I think it had like the little finger radial things at the ends of it.
Yeah, I have a Comet trapped dipole. I just wondered if it was like that.
Well, I'm getting them confused off the top of my head. One of them I think was the MFJ. One of them was the Cushcraft, and I know at least one of them was, but I forget now. I'd have to go look back. It's just something I was researching about, 3 weeks ago, trying to figure out if it'd be something interesting to do up there, especially for 10. My dipole in the attic doesn't do very well for 10 at all, and I like listening around there some, so it's something I was thinking about doing for that.
Okay, was there another comment?
Yeah, Danny WE4E. Just two things. Do the math on your wind load and make sure that your tower and your guys and your rotator and your thrust bearing and your mast will handle your wind load. And I tend to think you'll get far better result out of a side mounted vertical for 10 than you would with a dipole. More often than not, you'll be better off vertically.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's one of the reasons why making another vertical because, the only vertical I was thinking that I could do right now is the one I've got at the very tip top. But yeah, coming off the side, it is an option in the right place, I guess. The caveat here is that my tower is actually it's a crank up and down. So when it's down, it's 25 feet. It's 25 feet sections. It's pretty heavy duty though. I mean, it's got a pretty wide stance at the base, and it's Alumacraft extra heavy duty one out of Florida. And the wind load that I've calculated for these things based on the specs from the manufacturers of the antennas, I'm well beneath where the thing can handle, because there's some people actually putting some pretty large HF antennas on it. And I don't plan to do that. But I'll think about that. The vertical off the side, of course, is an idea. I mean, like I don't actually know the size of it, but the antenna that like Paul's using, I think several others are using on 10s, is, I think, working out quite well.
Well, you may end up having to do something like an IMAX or an Antron or something, because I don't know how you're going to manage the radials and the tower and all of that other stuff. But good choice on the tower, and it sounds like you've done your homework.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm gonna think it through, and I may not even do that on the tower. But it's just after my wheels got to turning on this thing, and I'm thinking like, well, there's the tower, and it's up high, and I start thinking, well, maybe I do want to do something for HF up on the thing, but probably just more for tinkering and playing than anything. But I'll keep all that in mind. That's good info. Yeah, I've been, this is going to be my springtime project, and this started last year at the Huntsville Ham Fest, and found this thing and got one on order, and it came in Thanksgiving, and I had to dig the hole, put the rebar cage in, form it up, concrete it, erect the thing, create the house brackets. It's house bracketed 15 feet off the ground at the roof rafters. And so the engineer said that if I did that, then it wouldn't have to be guyed. It's made specially for that. And so, they make these aluminum plates that they send with it. And anyway, I got all that done. That's been my project through all this cold and rain and that we've had, up until recently. But that part is finished, and so now it's waiting just for me to actually get the antennas on it. So I will be doing that very soon.
Just be happy it all came in before this mess.
Absolutely. KB4 RSM Friday.
Yeah, very good, Glenn. Yeah, I envy the opportunity to put up. I don't have that opportunity at the moment. I don't know if I will. I mean, to have a 70-foot tower, that's quite an operation. But it is an aluminum tower, isn't it?
It is. It's all aluminum, which is pretty interesting. That kept it a little bit lighter weight, and what they claim is, some years can go by, it's going to look just like it looks right now. So that was kind of appealing to me, also. But yeah, it's quite interesting. I'm excited and wanting to get the antennas on top of it. And I've been videoing most of the whole process of this whole thing. So I plan on here soon putting together a short video of it, and I'll throw that out to the group just for fun.
Yeah, that'll be great. That'll be great to see. Yeah, put it up on, I don't know. Do you have a YouTube channel? Yeah, you have a YouTube channel now, don't you?
Yeah, I'll throw it up there and maybe send out a message and just let, for fun, get some people to look at it. But it's been quite interesting. I've learned quite a bit through the process, for sure.
Yeah, there's one thing about ham radio I've found is you really never stop learning. I mean, you think you know everything about a band or about a particular area of the bands, and or antennas, and then you realize, well, I don't know a whole lot. There's just there's too much to know.
Right. Yeah, I get that. I mean, it was my first hole to dig, first rebar cage to put in, and first, 2.5-foot anchor bolt dropped down into the concrete and mounted, and getting it level and doing all of that type of work that I wasn't used to doing. Fortunately, I got a hold of some good help and some friends to help of that was quite the learning experience, but it came together, and so I'm quite pleased. And like I say, now that this weather warmed up today and yesterday for certain, and Thursday and Friday I was working on it. I'm getting close, so there's going to be some things go up soon.
Yeah, very good. Did you do any? You didn't. I don't know if I asked you before. Did you take any particularly aside from? Well, let me just say, aside from digging the the hole for the concrete and all that other stuff, did you do any different or do any specific grounding other than just a ground rod, or did you put multiple ground rods in? What was your strategy there?
Right now, I've got an 8-foot copper ground rod in the ground right beside the concrete footing, and I've got two grounding just aluminum, I believe it is, run one to one leg, one to the other leg, but right now to the same grounding rod, just for a little bit of redundancy's sake. But that was just all me. It wasn't really spelled out or anything, but I did ground it.
Yeah, no, I was pretty sure you would have, but seems to me I remember though that when I did electrical work, which is quite some years ago, on that type of stuff with grounding, even if you put in multiple ground rods, you would want to tie those ground rods together. I believe, electrically.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, I'll keep that in mind and might research that a little bit just to make sure that what I've done is okay. But yeah, I've got at least that in place at the moment.
Well, it's very much like like you do with a. In other words, what you'd want is the same electrical potential for all of the ground connections that's connected to, and seems to me you're sending out the only power you're sending out there is the what is it, 24 volts to the rotor?
I believe that's correct. It's the Yaesu 800.
Yeah, I forget which model mine is, but I think you're right.
Make sure you bind those ground rods to the. Those need to be bonded to the electrical service panel ground.
Oh, that's where I was headed, Danny, with that conversation.
Got you. Carry on.
Yeah, you need to have the same electrical potential of your home electrical service as is the tower and the electrical connections out there.
Okay. Well, right now in the radio room here with me, the radios and all the equipment right here, I also have on run down to right underneath the house in my basement, which is right beneath me, and I have a 8-foot ground rod running the ground there too. But you're saying also get the electrical service of the house grounded to the same place?
Well, in other words, you would take a well, you're gonna have a connection to the tower. That same connection is going out to 1 or 2 or 3 ground rods with a continuous loop, and then that same loop comes back to the electrical service ground. And usually the practice used to be, so don't take my word for gospel, but it was always one continuous piece of wire that goes all the way through all of the grounds up to the back to the house ground. Because just like even when you do a ground from like an electrical service, it comes out of your electrical panel grounding bus and it goes straight down to usually a ground rod, unless the household copper piping, or just the piping, it didn't have to be copper, but it would go to that continuously out to the ground rod outside, all on the same. You can't have it broken. And I just presume that it would be the same going out to the, just so any loose connection wouldn't throw an iron, a wrench in the works.
Right. There's definitely a ground rod that's not mine, or not one that I did, that's out underneath basically my meter out on the side of the house. So there's definitely a ground rod there too. But okay, I'll check into that. I've got a buddy who's a lot more electrical inclined than I am, and I'll do some discussion with him on that too.
How far is your electrical panel from your tower?
Let's see. Tower is on the back side of the house, and the panel's on the right side. I'm going to say if you went down the back side of the house and up the other side, I'm going to say maybe 30 feet.
Yeah, Yeah, there probably needs to be at least one ground rod between the tower and the electric panel. Basically, you want to have ground rods at about twice the distance as they are long. In other words, 8-foot ground rods, you want them 16 feet apart. Make sure you bind all those together and the ground rod that your equipment is tied to. All of those grounds should be at the same potential.
Okay, yeah, the ground rod that I'm speaking of right here under the room I'm in, down in the house, it's actually just about exactly opposite side of the wall is where the meter outside is. Pretty close. So getting those together probably wouldn't be that difficult, but that's good info. Appreciate it.
Yeah, bad things will happen the first time you take a lightning strike.
Right, okay, I get it.
Well, you get potential difference in the ground, and current will actually flow between the ground rods. You wouldn't think they would because they're at ground, but the lightning strike, there's so much potential there. And it'll flow through the wiring, it'll flow through your equipment.
Exactly. Okay, good deal. Gives me something else to look into, something else to do, which that's okay.
Did I hear John in there? Whiskey Alpha 4, the Whiskey 4 Alpha Whiskey Echo. Did I hear John in there?
W4AWE. Yeah, I just got up here about 10 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, you and Glenn ought to get together for a few minutes aside from here and just talk about that grounding issue that you just went through on your setup over there.
Yeah, I tell you, the best investment he could make is buy the new ARRL station grounding handbook. It is. I've got the most recent electrical code, and then a couple of military manuals, and the new book by the ARRL that's about 2 years old. It basically takes the simplest, best information from the latest codes and really boils it down simply. And it's not an expensive book.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, and like I said, if you and I'm sure you've because you had an extensive grounding system, as I recall from your conversations with me, and I just thought you might be of some assistance to him directly. But yeah, he needs to figure it out what he's got there himself as well.
Yeah, even for a tower, it's going to be the critical thing. And the National Electrical Code has changed, I think, in the last couple of years. Like if you've just got a standard residential meter system, codes now requires 2 8-foot ground rods there at that panel. The important thing is what's called bonding. And bonding is what you were talking about, Paul. It's where you connect every ground together continuously.
Right. I didn't realize the new code requires 2. What's the distance on those? Do you remember?
Half the length. So, typically the ideal would be 2 8-foot ground rods, 8 feet apart, because that'll give you a better ground radius, but they'll let you go as close as 4 feet apart. If you're building a new house, then it's really easy. Then you ought to just surround the house with about, 8 or 9 ground rods, and the real secret that's inexpensive if you do it yourself is to CAD weld everything. Because if you rely on those, on wrench tightened connections, they are eventually, even though they're coated with no locks, they're eventually going to work loose.
Yeah, absolutely. I always thought those were terrible because there's no way you can make them, like I said, unless they're welded on there.
Yeah, and of course you also bond, to the reinforcing steel in the tower base, and if the house has got a slab floor, you bond to that steel as well.
Yep. Yeah, it even gets trickier when you have I did a few swimming pools, and those even got more intense. But no, you're right though. Well, if you're going to put ground rods all around your house, you might as well go ahead and build a Faraday cage over the house.
Well, you don't want it over it because then nothing would get out. But there's the military's got sort of a different opinion, and Motorola's also got a wonderful book
that goes into detail about how all the cell towers are done, and they're basically standardized everywhere. And but it's really simple if you do it yourself. You're just going to have to do quite a bit of digging.
Yeah, and pounding. By the way, I'm sure you've seen it, but they do permit, most municipalities permit horizontal ground rods if you run into issues where you have to go through like heavy rock or usually it'd be a really rocky soil. I mean, really rocky soil, like you're hitting down through granite or something. I don't know if anybody has those issues, but they even actually let you dig a trench and lay ground rods, and sometimes they connect ground rods together and make horizontal ground rods.
Yeah, that happens a lot out west, like in Arizona, and actually some places in Florida, I believe. But it's going to be up to the local codes. They leave that at their discretion. And in some places where you've got so much rock where you just can't go vertically, there are some salt compounds that you can buy, like I think in a 50-gallon drum that you put in the dirt around those horizontal rods, and it really helps the conductivity.
Right. I've seen those designs, just never used them. I just can't imagine purposely putting salt on all your connections.
Yeah, and it's, like when the utility, if you go out and really look at your service pole from NES, when they're mandated every time there's a transformer or a feed, that has to be a ground rod, and they have to keep connecting 10-foot rods until they get, I think, below 25 ohms resistance.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not sure. How do they? You mean between rods or between poles?
No, it's like they keep. You've seen they've got some special bucket trucks that instead of a bucket, it's got a big auger on the back for putting in the hole for power poles, and then it also has a big impact driver that drives in 10-foot. They use 3/4-inch diameter rods for the electrical service, and they have special couplers. If they don't have enough, if they still have a high resistance with one rod, they'll just couple it and keep going down one on top of the other until they get a low resistance.
Right, I've seen them do that. I've seen them put down like 20 foot or more of a ground rod, especially in Florida where they might be in that really sandy soil, and it's and the water table, it happens to be where they are, is not very high.
Yeah, it's sort of tricky, because it can vary a half mile away, but here in Tennessee it's fairly consistent because we've got a lot of the ground here is pretty moist, and we have tons of underlying limestone.
Yeah, I can't imagine being in places yet. I mean, as it is here, the clay is pretty intense, and I know that when I was up in New York, the clay was really, really intense. It was hard to stick a shovel in the ground past about 6 or 10 inches. But anyway, we had a lot of good participation tonight. It was nice not having to do all the talking. And we had hold on one second. Besides having, do we have any other late check-ins? Please come now. I heard another station in there, unless there was a mistake. But I heard you in there, Tim. Kilo Romeo 4 Alpha Zulu in Murfreesboro, and who else was in there?
Kilo Juliet Richard Victor Romeo. Is it broke? You're doing well, Richard. KE4TYJ.
I didn't copy. Who was that station? Because it was very rough copy to me.
It was Richard, KI4SIB. Kilo Juliet 4 Echo Victor Romeo.
Ah, very good. Kilo Julio 4 Echo Victor Romeo. Forgive me. First name and location, please.
Name here is Joe Juliet Oscar Europe, and over here by Priest Lake.
Ah, very good. Who else was in? Oh, wait, Kilo India 4 Sierra into Bravo. I got you. Are you on your HT there, Richard?
I better not be. I was sitting here about years ago.
Oh, okay. I just wondered. Did you have trouble getting in? Was that the problem?
Well,
evidently did.
Okay, very good. Have you been in there long?
Well, I've been sitting listening to the grounding rod issue.
Ah, very good. Yeah, it was a nice discussion about that stuff. It is good stuff to know, though, because you can actually run into some serious problems with grounding issues and not paying attention to connections and how they're supposed to be connected. Was there? And by the way, I was going to count up. Was there any other late check-ins besides Tim and Richard?
KO4CBU, HG, Rubber Duck, Old Hickory, HG4, HG4,
Yeah, very good. I got KG4SFF, and that is Charles in Old Hickory. There's another says that Kilo Oscar 4 Charlie Bravo uniform. That's correct.
Charlie Victor uniform.
Ah, very good. And again with the first name, I'm sorry.
I'm Stephen, over here between Mount Juliet and Lebanon.
Oh yes, very good, Stephen. Right, you're over by the 109, correct?
Yes, sir, correct.
Yeah, very good. Good to have you in there. Been in there long, or you just been just jump in there?
I got in the middle of the grounding conversation, which was very informative. Thank you.
Yeah, it is good. Like I said, it's nice to sit back and listen myself because I don't have to do all the talking. And I like this. I think I like the way we've been doing this because right now we've got 32 check-ins, and we don't. I'll say waste a lot of time. Some people, I lure them into talking about something, but they don't necessarily want to talk. And having a topic like this just come up, maybe we should perhaps have a series of topics to talk about, but we don't have to if we don't want to. Anyway, I was going to say we had at least. Hold on one second. I think we had out of the 32, there was about 10 people who joined into some part of those conversations, which is nice because it's a nice collection of intellectual knowledge about the systems or antennas, in this case grounding, because we also talked about antennas a little bit. But was there anybody out there with any comments regarding the grounding or antennas or anything else they want to ask the group, technical or otherwise, other than well, you could even any topic's good on ham radio, you know that.
Comment.
Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
Don, N4 DJT wants us to check him in. He's got everything shut down because of the storm.
Oh man, that's because he's not sure about his grounding system, is he?
I bet he's got grounding galore.
Well, I just to wrap up. Hopefully, I don't want to wrap it up, but just to kind of wrap up that grounding issue. I've said it a couple of times on here, not necessarily on the net, but I knew a guy. He's still down there. He's not too active now. He's had a stroke, but he put up a 60 or 70-foot tower and put nice antennas on it. I never did see it, but he described it to me, and he'd been in ham radio for 40 or 50 years by that point. And he put in a copper screen grounding system all around the tower, buried it, and of course grounded that in ways. And he had worked for a utility, so he was very familiar with the grounding requirements. And he just and then he put a D-Star antenna and repeaters and some other stuff connected to the towers, and he got hit by lightning and he lost, I forget how much he said, $15,000 worth of stuff. So there's no guarantees ever.
Best thing to do is unhook it.
Well, yeah, but he still lost a great deal of stuff from point at the top all the way coming down, with antennas, etc. He lost a lot of stuff. You're right, though, if you can. But see, in Florida, it's like the best comment that I heard. I don't even know the fellow who said it. I was listening in on a conversation about grounding, and in Florida, you get into, I think that if you could, you'd get in fist fights about grounding in Florida because of all the crazy conditions down there in the soil. But he said, if I had to disconnect all my antennas and all my gear every time a storm came up, which is a lot in Florida, he goes, that's all I would do. So I don't do it. I just leave it alone. And I do too. I've never disconnected. Well, I have disconnected stuff, but not for a storm. Not that I have a lot of stuff. It's a pain.
Well, if you think the lightning, which can jump from the sky to the ground, isn't going to jump off the end of your coax or something, you're sadly mistaken. You're far better off deciding where that energy goes to ground.
Oh, I agree. I agree with you. It's just that we tend to forget, and it's a common forget for people, is that lightning goes in both directions equally, and it often comes up from the ground, the difference of potential, the strike can come from down up or up down.
And sometimes it's both. But you're right. You get these static leaders that start out actually on the ground or on the object that's about to get hit. So they reach up into the atmosphere and grab it.
Yeah. Do you know anybody who uses one of those active lightning arresters?
No, but when I was in broadcasting, working on 1,500 foot tall towers, we used an awful lot of those big Brillo pads, static dissipators.
Right. No, I worked on a project in Sarasota. It was a very expensive high rise. I say high rise, mid rise condo. I don't know, it was 15 stories maybe. Beautiful apartments, condominiums overlooking Sarasota Bay there on the Gulf Coast. And even though it was a really nice place, some things didn't go so well. And one of the things that didn't go so well, they had put in one of those active, I don't really know if that's the correct title for those lightning arrestor systems. They're active. They actually induce voltages in the systems that are up in the air. And I almost want to call them antennas. They're really receptors, and they induce the differential between what's in the air and the ground connections. Well, they apparently wired it such that that whole grounding system actually went right over the top of the two elevators and the elevator control panels inside the penthouse equipment room. And they did take a direct hit on the lightning system, and it took out both of the elevator systems as well as the grounding system. So the place was about half full, and they didn't have any elevators for about 2 weeks. So like I said, there's no guarantees on it. With lightning, all bets are off. But you do want to take the time. Don't misunderstand me. You want to take the time to do it as practical and as religiously, electrically engineered properly. Otherwise, you're just asking for trouble.
Comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
I read somewhere about when you unhook the coax from your radio to stick the end in a glass jar. But I don't know how much that would help in a lightning storm. But I guess it would be more than laying it on the table or something.
Yeah, I think it has to be a mayonnaise jar. Any comments on the glass jar idea?
Oh,
Yeah, go ahead. Whoever that was.
K4IDC, it's bogus. Danny's right. You need to give it a place to dissipate to, like ground.
Yeah, I hear you. No, I've heard that too. That's why I said it has to be a mayonnaise jar. Preferably, what's the most famous one in the South?
Miracle Whip. Well, you ain't from around here, are you?
I just thought I'd ask to verify. I didn't want to make a fool of myself.
Gotta be Dukes.
Yeah, it would be Dukes. What's wrong with you, Miracle Whip? Miracle Whip's probably made in Boston.
Well, okay, helmet.
Well, see, Miracle Whips are actually not a mayonnaise. It's a spread.
Yeah, it's salad dressing.
That's right. Earl knows.
It conducts better, though.
Yeah, that's right. It has to be a mayonnaise jar with mayonnaise in it.
Are you still taking check-ins?
Obviously, I have to now that you're here. No, yes, I am.
It's going to be a long one. What direction?
Which direction? Which?
Are you taking check-ins from?
No, we already did. We went all the way around the block twice, or at least once, and you're number 34.
Oh, all right. Well, guess I wasn't paying attention. Sorry. Put it on my bill.
All right, no big deal. There's no, we have no rules here. You said you don't have to be here if you don't want to be here. You don't have to be checked in. You can actually ask me to remove your check-in if you want to.
I was waiting for you to call from South.
No, we already went around the block. Is there any other late check-ins before we move over to the 2-meter sideband then?
Nothing beats the tangy and zip of Miracle Whip.
I happen to like it, but I also like mayonnaise.
Hey, Paul, what was different about this about tonight? I got on about 8:20. Y'all's already talking about grounding. Y'all went through it quick, didn't you?
Well, we're going to that lightning round, which is we just take first time around, and I've taken check-ins at any time, but first time around, we just go through, you give your call and your name and your location, and we just zip right on down, no comments. Well, I'm not saying they're not permitted, but it's easy to jump through, and we've been through, again, the first time we did it, we ended up with, I think, 33 check-ins, And it just gives people. I knew, well, I felt that they were people who would. It was just as easy to sit back and listen to the net rather than check in, particularly if it was dragging on like we have had it do, go an hour and 15 minutes, just going through check-ins and talking with each person, and either fell asleep or they went to bed or they went and got groceries or, other things became more important. So to run through the check-ins first seems to work better.
Oh, I agree. I mean, yeah. But I wasn't accustomed to it. I usually get here late. You're still somewhere. And I thought, 8:20. Man, they still talking about grounding. I said, they must have started at 7. All right, let me let you go. KR4AZ clear.
Yeah, very good. Hey, by the way, I ordered that part for the antenna, and I haven't gotten it yet. So the X700, the one that busted, not the element busted, but the end fiberglass piece, that 4-foot piece. And so 6 feet, whatever it is. So I wonder. I also ordered another antenna from doesn't matter where I ordered it from, but it still hasn't been shipped. And I thought that's funny. I ordered one of the D300s, I think it is. It's the disco, and I wanted to put up a disco for some other reason, and just wanted to have an offset to a great antenna to a no gain antenna. That's what it was. But no, I was going to say is, but I went and I looked at the pricing and the availability on Gigaparts for that D300 antenna, and it says 2 to 4 weeks shipping on that antenna. So I figured, well, I guess it's going to be a while from I don't know what's going on with Diamond, but they're being slow.
Yeah, I thought you'd done had that thing.
No, it's all sitting back here in the back of the house, just waiting for the part. Any other late check-ins before we move on? Need to get rolling here. Anybody else? North, south, east, west, vertical or horizontal? Please come on.
Hey, Paul.
You.
WB0NOO here. I've got one of those discos due in a bag. If you want one, you can have it and replace it when yours comes in.
Oh, that's right. I've got appreciate the offer. I've got lots of time since I can't do really anything that I want to do because they're waiting for the contractor on the roofing deal and all the stuff I got going on here with that crazy. I don't know if I told you guys. It ended up being about $13,000 worth of damage in my house due to that tornado.
Wow. Well, it doesn't sound like it, but you're one of the lucky ones.
Oh, believe me. But after I saw it happen, I went outside to see what the damage was after the tornado went by, and I didn't understand because I just didn't. I didn't know what was going on. It was 1 o'clock in the morning, so I went outside with the flashlight, and I saw my fence was down. I'm like, oh, yeah, not all of it. I had two sections, not two sections, about 5 sections of the fence got tore up, and I mean tore up good. And then I saw that I had roof damage, and I saw that my antennas fell down, and I saw that there was damage on this other building I have. And I said, I'm ticked off. I'm like, oh man, the trouble I got to get along with, and I know there's a deductible on the insurance, and then I was kind of went to bed, 3 in the morning, ticked off, and then the next morning when I woke up later in the morning, I walked down to see what other damage was down the street. And I walked down to the end of the street. My heart fell. I mean, I realized I didn't have any problems at all.
Yep. All right. Well, I didn't really have anything to add other than that I had an antenna. So change your mind. You know where to find me.
Oh, no. Very good. Very good. I appreciate it. Which one is it? Is it Diamonds or is it another brand?
It's a Diamond. I think it's the one that's got a 6 meter on top of it.
Yeah, that's the one. That one goes for $130 or so.
Yeah. I've got one up on my tower that's been up there for 20 years, and I don't know, maybe a year ago I ordered this one, thinking I may get up there and replace it, but I haven't done it yet.
I think they're made pretty good. If I don't know that I've seen the Diamond, but I actually had an MFJ one a long time ago, 14 years ago maybe, and I was surprised at how well the MFJ antenna was made. It was all stainless steel.
Yep. The Diamond is too. It's nicely made. As I say, the one I got been up there 20 years and it's still working fine.
Yeah. Well, with a no gain antenna, it's hard to tell, isn't it?
Well, I've got another antenna that I use for other things. That's kind of my listen to the cops and the ambulances and all that stuff antenna.
I gotcha. Very good. All right, good to have you in. Thanks for the comment. And thanks for the opportunity. I may have to take you up on it if I ever get a shipment on this. The roofer beats me to the punch here. Do we have any other late check-ins before we move on, or we're going to do that momentarily? All righty. Well, has anybody got anything they're trying to sell? Please come now on the buy, sell, swap, and swindle net. Robin, I know you got some stuff. Did you want to put it up on the site rather than talk about it?
Nothing at this time, thanks.
All right. Just want to make sure. I know you got lots of stuff. Anybody else we got something you want to buy? Is anybody looking for something that it's not readily available? It's a busy buy, sell, swap, and swindle now. We got quite a operation going here. All right, last chance. Buying or selling? Anybody have anything they want to discuss? All righty, then I'm going to close this portion of the net. We're going to run over to 144.240 and go from there. And I'm going to do the same thing on the lightning round, so to speak, and we'll be right back. K4PW going over to 144.240. Man, figure out how to use my radio properly. This is K4PW, the Mount Juliet Simplex Radio Net. Looking for check-ins on 144.240, starting from the north. Please come on. Nothing from the north. 144.240. Please come on. Over to the west, then. Please come on.
November, India, 4 Delta.
Very good, Carl. Good to have you in there. Who else is west?
KM4YRF.
KM4YRF. That's Michael there in Belshire. Anybody else? West?
Whiskey 4 Alpha Whiskey Echo.
Good solid signals always. And I love this part of the band. It's really neat on 70. I mean, on sideband. John, good to have you in there. Who else? West? Anybody else west?
Import DJT.
November 4. You're checking him in virtually, right?
Yes.
All right, very good. I'll call that a virtual relay, a VR. Who else is west? Please come in. All right, over to the south or down to the south.
Kilo Romeo 4 Alpha Zulu.
All right, Tim got you in there. That's Kilo Romeo 4 Alpha Zulu. Tim in Murfreesboro. Anybody else south? Anybody else south or east?
Kilo 4 Romeo Sierra Mike.
I think there was about 3 or 4 in there at the same time, but I did get Glenn in there, and Glenn is KB4RSM. That's what it is. Had to think about that one for a second. For RSM. Who else? South or east?
KE4TWI.
Hey, very good. Got you in there, Wes. KE4TWI in Watertown. Who else is left?
Kilo Echo 4 Delta Echo Zulu. Tom was in there too.
Thought I heard Tom's voice in there. Tom, you still there?
KB4SFN. Go ahead.
Very good. Got Tom over there in Martha. Who else east? Anybody else east or north or west or south? Please come now.
Kilo Bravo 9 Romeo Kilo.
Yeah, I did hear you in there too. Sorry about that, Frank. Anybody else anywhere or any place? Well, very good. Again, I'll start from the bottom, I guess. And that would be Kilo Bravo 9 Romeo Kilo. That's Frank there in Northwest Wilson. Kilo Bravo 4 Sierra Foxtrot November. And that's Tom here in Martha over there closer to Lebanon. Kilo Echo 4 Delta Echo Zulu Earl and Noreen. Kilo Echo 4 Tango Whiskey India. And that's, excuse me, is West near Watertown. And Kilo Bravo 4 Romeo Sierra Mike Glenn in Mount Juliet, kind of. Tim Kilo Romeo 4 Alpha Zulu in Murfreesboro, and is a virtual November 4 Delta Juliet Tango Don in Bon Aqua. John, Whiskey 4 Alpha Whiskey Echo in Bellevue, and Michael, Kilo Mike 4 Yankee Romeo Foxtrot. Get my tongue twisted there. That's Kilo Mike 4 Yankee Romeo Foxtrot. Carl, November India 4 Delta, and he's in what do you call it? Belfast. No, I'll get to it in a second. I always want to get that name screwed up or something. And then myself, and I'll let Carl fill that in. Carl, what's the name where you live? It's in Belmont. That's what it is, Belmont, isn't it? And then Paul, K4PEW here in Mount Juliet. I'm pretty sure that's where I am. And that's whoever was counting. That's 4. That's 10 of us here on the 2-meter side bands. Anybody have any other check-ins? Please come in. Well, very good. You're welcome to stay and hang out here on the sideband portion of the net. And I'm going to close it out, though. I have a great net with 34 people on 2 meters FM. And whatever I just said, there are 10 of us on 2-meter sideband. So good, glad to have everybody in there. It's K4PW closing the net.